Good morning, everyone. My name is Dennis Donahue, and I'm going to be moderating the next couple of hours. I run Western Growers Innovation Center over in Salinas. I'm also on the board of the Grower Shipper Association Foundation, which, along with our terrific host this morning, CSUMB, have been bringing to you a subject of some discussion. This is either the 11th or 13th time we've gotten together to do this, and as the former mayor, I decided a compromise is in order. We'll just call it the 12th. But the important thing is we're back together again for another great session, as you're going to see. And I've got to tell you, looking at the panel of folks who are going to be here today, it's an awfully good group. So I thank all of you who are taking the time to join us. We sure appreciate it. Before I bring up Dr. Ochoa to officially greet you, let me just put on my Grower Shipper Association Foundation hat just very, very quickly. And I was on the original board, and I'm a past chair of the Grower Shipper Association. When the foundation was conceived, we were really thinking about three things, and those are highlighted by key programs, and this is one of them. First is our Ag Knowledge Program, where we reach out to the entire region on an annual basis and try and educate folks about what goes on in Monterey County's largest industry. We think that's an important effort. The other thing is we made a commitment to salad bars in schools, which could evolve to healthy eating and snacking over time. But the idea is, if you think about it, every major food nutritional trend in this country is geared towards what we do around here in terms of fruits and vegetables. So we thought that was a good thing to take advantage of. And then the other thing is we really felt educating, attracting talent was absolutely critical, and really we couldn't have asked for a better partner than Cal State Monterey Bay. I was over here the other day for the 25th anniversary celebrations, and there's obviously a lot going on here, but as you'll hear from the Dr. Ochoa and the rest of the group that's going to talk a little bit about what's going on at Cal State Monterey Bay, our industry couldn't be more fortunate than to have Cal State Monterey Bay in our backyard to help prepare us for the future. So with that, Doctor, if you'll come up and officially greet the group, that'd be great.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to our campus and this important Greater Vision annual event. As many of you know, this is a significant year for us at Cal State Monterey Bay as we celebrate our 25th anniversary. We owe our existence to the strong and united community effort to develop a four-year university in Monterey County following the closure of Fort Ord. Many things have changed at CSUMB and in our three-county Central Coast service area since those exciting and challenging days of our founding. However, one thing has not changed. We remain a community-focused institution, a strategic partner with business, education, and the nonprofit sector in helping to improve the quality of life in the region. Through much of the 20th century, the three pillars of our area's economy were agriculture, tourism, and the military. While a single university will not have the direct economic impact of a military base in terms of employment and payroll, a university can and must work to extend its impact by reaching beyond its campus and tailoring its programs to the needs of its community. Today's Greater Vision event is one part of that ongoing effort. We want to serve the unique needs of our area's agribusiness sector in an integrated and holistic manner. We want to provide trained talent and the latest applied research and ag-tech solutions to meet the unique needs of Salinas Valley agriculture. We seek to become the go-to resource for agribusiness and ag-tech advice. In the near future, we plan to develop an engineering school focused on mechatronics and robotics to serve the needs of regional agribusiness. The feedback we have received both from local business leaders and from the CSU Chancellor's Office indicates strong support for this initiative. In fact, we have received already over $8 million in private support for the next science and engineering building being planned now. We also plan to develop the talent and research capabilities to serve the pre-production, production, and food safety needs of agribusiness through a soil and crop science program focused on perishable commodities. We want to help you meet your needs for pre-production demand forecasting, harvest optimization, post-harvest logistics, transportation, and customer fulfillment through a unique agribusiness supply chain management program. Today's event will examine how the agribusiness and agricultural sector will change to serve tomorrow's marketplace. I look forward to learning about these developments from the outstanding group of experts that has been assembled here today. I greatly appreciate your participation and your commitment to helping build a strong and sustainable agriculture industry in our region. Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to ask Dr. Fran Horvath to come up, the provost, and also talk a little bit about what's going on at CSUMB. So, Doctor? It's okay to clap.
Okay, that's enough clapping. Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'm here representing Academic Affairs, which is the colleges, the faculty, the departments of CSU Monterey Bay. And on their behalf, I want to welcome all those of you who are here. In particular, I recognize our community partners. That's wonderful to have you here, but I also have to especially welcome our students. I hope that this provides a really strong opportunity for you today to get a handle on what happens in our community and to get to talk to some of our community leaders and to make those kinds of connections, because that's really important here. For those of you who are perhaps haven't been to campus for a while, or maybe haven't been here before at all, you absolutely should notice the campus is different and growing. We have a brand new building that we just opened, which is a humanities building. And then there's a rather gigantic student-funded union, which will open next year, but is in the process of being built. And so if you have the opportunity while you're here, by all means, I encourage you to get out onto the campus and just take in some of the energy that is going on right now. So this year, we celebrate either the 11th, 12th, or 13th year of this group. And I understand we're settling on 12, that's good. Of what has been a strong and durable partnership between the Grower Shipper Association Foundation and CSUMB's College of Business and College of Science. And this series has fostered an informed dialogue on very critical and transformational issues in the Tri-County agricultural region among all the people who are here, students, community members, faculty, and so forth. And as I'm sure you know, we do this because CSUMB at its core values collaboration. And we do this in a variety of ways. You see here that we are collaborating with local and regional ag companies and organizations like the Western Grower Center for Innovation and Technology, the Monterey Bay Drone Automation and Robotics Technology Initiative, the Thrive Accelerator, and Digital Nest. But CSUMB is a partner for broad parts of the Salinas, Pajaro, and Central Valley here in California. And we do that in many, many ways. And I just wanted to mention some of the other cooperatives and collaborations we have with other partners. We are, I'm sure some of you know, very engaged in the Bright Futures Initiative. We were a catalyst for that initiative. And it's a tremendous community partnership where many, many, many members, such as United Way, the local K-12 districts in Salinas and Monterey, the local community colleges of Hartnell and Monterey Peninsula College, and many, many others come together to foster stronger educational outcomes for local students. The whole idea is a cradle-to-career pathway to make our students more successful and to get much more quality talent grown right here in Monterey County for Monterey County, and that's our goal, so that our students who live here can continue to live here after they graduate. We also have a very strong service learning program, and all of the students sitting here in this room are well aware of that. We are the only CSU that requires both lower division and upper division service learning. And at the upper division, students engage through their major, and in all cases, they go out and they work with various organizations throughout the county, throughout the Tri-County region, and work on community projects that develop knowledge, skills, and attitudes for our students in participating with multicultural communities. And that is really important for our students to get an understanding of what the local community experiences. We also have a very strong capstone program, and many of the majors have a capstone in which students go out and work with local community. College of Business is particularly strong in this, and so is the College of Science. Both of them have capstones in which students reach out to organizations, to businesses, to people who need problems solved, and they work on those problems as part of their capstone. We have a number of programs, new academic programs that we have reaching out into various parts out beyond the Monterey Peninsula and this local area here. We have a teacher education program in King City. We have a nursing ADN to BSN program at Cuesta College. We have a physician assistant program in North Salinas, and we are the only CSU to have a physician assistant program. And we have new Salinas Center for Arts and Culture at the Salinas City Center, where the goal is to create a community of artists and a culture of activism in Salinas. And that's just a few of the many initiatives that we have here at CSUMB. So I want to welcome you to this year's very exciting Greater Vision participation activity, and hope that you have an enjoyable and productive day in addressing these contemporary issues for agriculture and for society at large. And again, welcome to CSUMB.
I won't steal it, I promise. Now, since you happen, it just so happens, since you mentioned the departments of business and science, we actually have the good dean of business, Dr. Shyam Kamath, who will come up and talk a little bit about what your department's up to and how it relates to the future of agriculture.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you, along with President Ochoa and Provost Horvath, to this event. It's been a long partnership, a very treasured partnership for us. So we are delighted that you're here to learn about the biggest industry and the biggest thing in the area, agribusiness. It is the College of Science and the College of Business that have been long involved with the agribusiness and agricultural sector in the area. Agriculture is facing a number of challenges, and that is why we are adapting our programs to meet these challenges. I put up some of these right here, and you can see that what is happening is a tremendous change in the valley. There is a huge opportunity that is developing as a result, and that opportunity is allowing CSUMB to extend the steward of place role that President Ochoa and Provost Horvath talked about. And it is to provide the talent, jobs, expertise, and technology to enhance regional institutional capacity and economic development. So we have three programs that Dean Lawson and I are going to talk about. The Agribusiness Supply Chain Management Program that President Ochoa talked about, and the new and exciting Mechatronics Robotic-Focused Engineering Program, and the Soil and Crop Science Program. These are the opportunities that we are taking advantage of, essentially integrating technology with and robotics, and integrating the supply chain, which is what gets our valley, which is very special because of the fact that it produces perishable commodities which have to get to market within 24 hours if they have to be consumed fresh and safe. So what we have done in the College of Business is we have sat down with the industry, and we are trying to fill this gap. There are no universities in California or really in the country that deal with the perishable supply chain. And CSUMB has always been a steward of place by meeting community needs, so that fits. UC Davis, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, Cal State Fresno, and Chico all deal with research and the production side of agriculture. And the majority of jobs are in the supply chain, for example, in logistics, in planning, in forecasting, in enterprise resource planning, in risk management. And so we are looking to create this program, and we have already started well down the way to do that. Do you know that 30% of our students who graduate, that's all that stay in the Salinas Valley or in this area, in spite of the fact that we draw 40% from this area. So we are turning that around by creating local talent for the Salinas Valley. So this is the plan. This is the path we are embarking upon. We have established an ag business supply chain management concentration. We are, at this moment, on step one, we are trying to get an endowed professorship established. We've made good progress with a number of companies stepping up to support that effort. The second step is to launch an ag business supply chain major by 2021 and get a second endowed professorship. And by 2023, to establish a Ag Business Supply Chain Institute and grow the number of students to over 150. And finally, by 2028, to launch a Ag Business Supply Chain Master's degree and hopefully become the leader in this area. So that is the plan here in the College of Business, and I now want to invite my colleague, Dean Andrew Lawson, to talk about the exciting things that are happening in the College of Science.
Thank you, Sham. So welcome to everybody. I'm, as Sham had mentioned, the Dean of the College of Science, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the programs that we have in the pipeline. And the first of which will be coming on hopefully next year, which is our agricultural plant and soil science degree. So this degree, we've already gotten a pretty good start on this. We're planning a degree with a solid foundation in science coupled with some of the core courses like plant physiology, soils, biotechnology, weed management, pathology, entomology, and crop production. So our goal is to have students who want to be able to get a PCA license going through that program, that they can do so, also be certified as a CCA through that program. What's going to distinguish that program is that we are keeping a strong focus on Salinas Valley and Pajaro Valley agricultural crops, something that our other programs across the state really don't do. So additionally, we're partnering really closely with our community college partners at both Hartnell and Cabrillo. We're trying not to duplicate efforts, and they've been fantastic to work with. And we've already got a couple of our hires, Dr. Elizabeth Mosqueda, who's back there in the audience, who's the Bob and Sue Johnson Endowed Professor of Crop Management, and J.P. Dondoro Arias, our plant pathologist, was just hired this year. So we're beginning to have all of our hires, or at least some of our hires for that program in place, and we look forward to that program developing. As both President Ochoa and Sham had mentioned, we are also planning on an engineering degree. So one of the things that we really see happening, globally, but particularly we've got a strong focus here in the Valley, is this confluence of events where a labor shortage driven by changes in immigration as well as labor laws are coming along at the same time as advances in sensor technology, modular robotics, advances in artificial intelligence, cloud computing. All of these sort of things happening at the same time are allowing us to automate things which were really not previously possible at a price point which makes it viable. So we are also planning for a new science building, which President Ochoa also mentioned, that can house our engineering building. So it's a really good time to be thinking about an engineering program which has some real hard space requirements placed on that. So we're currently planning for a new science building, which will house the engineering program, which will allow us to put in some of those specialized labs. And we'll be launching our mechatronics program in time for that degree. And many might be asking, what is mechatronics? Mechatronics is an interdisciplinary field of engineering combining electronic systems, computers, and mechanical systems. So we're taking advantage and leveraging the strong computer science program that we already have here at CSUMB and building on that to add a mechatronics program which will have a strong focus on the ag tech side. So with that, welcome. I hope you have a great day. It looks like a fantastic program, and I'll welcome back up Dennis.
All right, I am going to ask our keynote conversationalist, Christine Mosley. She'll take the stage, and while she's doing that, and I'll get ready to join her in a second, let me tell you a little bit about Christine Mosley, who managed to get out of, was it Boston last night? Maine. Out of Maine, okay, which is even harder, and she was fighting the weather. She got into the city about 1:30 this morning, and you know, I think that's just another day in the life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But let me tell you a little bit about Christine Mosley. She's the CEO and founder of Full Harvest, and she's a passionate social entrepreneur, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But more specifically, Full Harvest is the first B2B marketplace for surplus and imperfect produce. Now, having grown in the Salinas Valley for many years, and I know Lori and others, we're not aware of any imperfect produce in Salinas, but apparently there is, and and we're going to find out a little bit about the opportunities that is going to create in the future. But her personal background, besides her passion for what she's doing, is particularly impressive. She has over 15 years of experience in the logistics and food industries at a couple of Fortune 100 companies that you may have heard of, Maersk and Procter & Gamble, and she's been involved with other high-growth food startups. She has an MBA from the Wharton Business School, and she is a graduate of the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and she has been recognized as Fortune's #2 most innovative woman in food and drink. And Full Harvest has also been named by Forbes magazine as one of the most innovative ag tech startups. So it's a real pleasure and honor to have Christine with us this morning, particularly knowing how hard she worked to make sure she was able to join us. So Christine, welcome.
Thanks, Dennis.
So why don't we start a little bit with, having accused you of being a serial entrepreneur of sorts. Talk a little bit about how that got in your DNA, because I was intrigued by, even at the age of 17, you were busy doing startups with a nonprofit called Musical Empowerment, and then I know you hung out with the Organic Avenue crowd in New York in terms of juice. So just talk a little bit about your background and has that always been your bent? I'm gonna start something. I'm gonna be mission oriented.
Yes. So I was fortunate to have two parents that were entrepreneurs. They came from not much and built businesses. Small businesses in Florida, but had a mother who created an investment management firm that's still going 30 years later, and my dad who's a independent law firm. So I think growing up, seeing my parents buy their first office and renovate it and grow their brand and get bigger and bigger over time just really was inspiring. And so since I was young, I think I had entrepreneurship in my blood. And so on top of that, my dad was very service-based. So he, outside of work, was president of the Boys and Girls Club, president of Kiwanis, things like that. So I grew up really having a service-minded mentality. And so when I was 17, I started my first venture, if you will, that was a nonprofit in the music education space to provide free music lessons for underprivileged children. Still growing 17 years later. Nationally, I'm on the board of that. But since I was about 13, I told my parents that, my mom was begging me to take over the family business forever growing up. And I said, I can't, because I know that I'm supposed to start a business to help the world, a big business. And I was like, I don't know if that sounds crazy or if everyone feels that way, but I really feel like since a young age, I just had this almost calling or, gut feeling, if you will. And I know that sounds crazy, but it just was something that happened to me. And so I was always looking after musical empowerment for that for-profit, really big idea that would impact the world in a big way, and was searching and searching. And then serendipitously, while I've always been passionate about food, after business school, got asked to help scale one of the first green juice companies in the country, Organic Avenue. And that's when I realized food was not just a hobby, it was also a calling, because I was blown away by how impactful food is and how it touches every human on the planet. It's not a trend, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and we're getting more and more people. But with food, you can impact health, you can impact the economy, you can impact the environment all at once. And so it's a huge channel for change, and was really inspired by that, but also looked around and noticed there wasn't nearly as much innovation, a lot of very offline processes still, not enough entrepreneurs in my entrepreneurial world. So really realized that food was where I needed to focus.
Well, talk a little bit about, so you end up at Organic Avenue and you're back east,
Yeah.
and then talk a little bit about your journey out to the West Coast and Full Harvest, and because it reads like all of the classic entrepreneurial stuff at a certain age. You've got roommates, and you're just getting by and trying to figure this whole thing out. Talk a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I heard the founder of Jet.com speak. They did $1 billion in sales within like their first month, but he had done 3 startups before, and he said, it really has to be about life or death almost. You almost have to like feel that way or hack it to feel that way, because it's so much work. Not literally, but
It has to be about life or death. You should be taking notes at this point if you're interested in being an entrepreneur.
So in a way, it's funny, I heard that after the fact, and I was like, that's so true, because for me, I left Organic Avenue, which I helped scale, and then was like, okay, now is finally the time. It's kind of felt like now or never, because I didn't want to wait till I was too old to do my for-profit big idea. But, and I didn't want to stay in New York anymore, and I left the company, so I was like, okay, now's when I need to go to California, which is where I always knew I wanted to start a business, and literally packed a suitcase 5 years ago, only had a little bit of money in the bank, and lived out of that suitcase for 1.5 years. Didn't realize that at the time. Would have packed better. I lived pretty much below the poverty line in San Francisco for 2.5 years, consulting, being very scrappy, Airbnb, renting out my car, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, as cliche as that is. I had 4 roommates in my 30s, but it was a nice house. It was still a nice house. But, I think that you have to make sacrifices, and, literally, the month that I didn't know how I was going to pay rent was the first month I got my first investment angel check. So, you really do. I worked 100-hour weeks for a year. I didn't go out. I was so dedicated to making this work, because it was kind of life or death. It was like, this either has to happen, or I'm going to lose my shot at, my big opportunity to help the world and like to do what I've always wanted to do. And just one side story is that I was amused by this, because I was actually really excited about this actually. But a friend randomly, while I was going through all of this, it's hard, you kind of want to give up, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not going to find anything, because I really didn't even know what my business was going to be at the time. I was just knowing that I wanted it to be on how to make healthy food more affordable, and was researching and finding ways to do that. But I had a friend at the time that said, well, there's this thing called the rocking chair test. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, well, when you're 80 years old, imagine you're 80 years old and you're sitting in your rocking chair and you're talking to your grandchildren. What are you going to say you would regret most in life? And I was like, oh, wow, well, I definitely know the answer to that. It would be not, taking a chance and trying to start this for-profit business to help the world in food. And so they told me, okay, well, then you have to be willing to give up everything for that. And that was the moment that I just made a conscious decision of, I have to let go of my fear of being broke. I had, retirement account. I was like, okay, I'm willing to spend everything in my account, and if I have to, I can tap into that retirement account. But like, if it doesn't work out, then I will get a job and I'll figure it out. But I just can't live with having regret. And sure enough, 2 years into my business, I hear Jeff Bezos speak, and my jaw was on the floor because he literally said the exact same story about what made him start Amazon. He was like, there's this thing called the rocking chair test. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And he was like, I live in what I now call, he has some term for it, but it's basically like a regret-free, zone or regret-free life. That's what he optimizes for constantly. And he was like, everybody thought I was crazy. They were like, what are you gonna do with this book online thing? But he's like, I just knew that if I didn't drive across the country and try it, I would always regret it. And so, long story long, I think
good
that
story. Important story.
I think that it's really important to think about what really matters to you and what you're willing to give up everything for, and to accept that. And then whatever challenges come in your way, just say, okay, well, this is part of the journey, and it's still better than me regretting this when I'm 80 years old.
Well, now somehow, and I don't know if this was the particular time and moment, but I know, we've had a chance to visit in the past, and I'm pleased that your group is part of the Innovation Center. So
Yes.
we
I'm
hear
going there right after this.
Well, good to hear. Yeah, no, in fact, you have the conference room from 4 to 6.
Wonderful.
And if you're there earlier, we'll get you out. But part of your journey led you to the Salinas Valley and Romaine Fields.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if that was the particular crop that informed your
it was.
decision making.
Yes,
Well, talk a little bit
sure.
about that.
So to jump back a second, really at Organic Avenue, because I was looking for an idea to start, I was looking for ways to improve things. And one thing that really frustrated me there is I loved what they were doing in terms of they were one of the first organic plant-based grab-and-go companies and created green juice and vegan meals. And plant-based, they don't like to associate being vegan, but and loved what they were doing, but I was frustrated they were selling $13 green juices. And it wasn't because they were trying to gouge people, it was because they were paying top dollar for perfect looking produce to then just immediately process it. And so wanted to figure out how to make healthy food more affordable, and that was really all that I knew that I wanted to figure out. And so I moved with a suitcase, started researching. I had no idea what I was gonna find, but I spent a few months just talking to anybody and everybody that would pick up the phone, going to conferences, watching documentaries, volunteering, and then all of a sudden found these shocking food waste statistics that had just come out. The NRDC, the Wasted Report, now it's everywhere, but at the time, 5 years ago, no one was talking about this. This was like alien speak,
Right.
And so, I was just shocked that 40% of food was wasted, but at the time, all they had was an anecdotal study, mostly from the Midwest, but that said that about 20 billion pounds of produce was left at the farm level just because it wasn't perfectly shaped for grocery stores. Now we've helped with Santa Clara University bring to light that it's almost double that, which is crazy, but 20 billion pounds at the time was huge enough for me to be like, wait a minute, what is happening? Like, why is that produce not going to the organic avenues of the world so that we can have cheaper green juices and healthy products? So went out to one of the largest farms in the country through an invite, through a warm connection, and watched them harvest romaine hearts. And I was by myself, and I was, this girl from the East Coast, on this huge farm, and, watched them harvest romaine hearts. And really, I absolutely love farmers. Part of, our mission is to grow business and revenue for farmers, because I feel like they're the salt of the earth and the people that, are doing so much for this world that, don't get appreciated enough. And what's sad is that, they're not causing this. The consumers are. We are. Over the last 30, 40 years, consumers have gotten pickier and pickier, and that demand has trickled down to the big retailers of the world, down to these farmers. So what I saw was them harvesting only 25% of the romaine head for the perfect romaine heart to bag it for consumers for perfection, and then watching, 65, 75% of the plant fall to the ground. So my aha moment was where I was just walking, calf deep, just stepping on beautiful edible romaine leaves for as far as the eye can see. Some of you may have seen this or pictures, but for me, as this girl from the East Coast that was an entrepreneur looking at this, it was just like, this is crazy. This is I hate to say it, but kind of a broken system. If there are people going hungry, we just had a article a couple days ago go out in the Fresno Bee where 22% of people in that county are hungry, yet they grow like almost a third of what's being grown within California. Most of some of which is near Fresno is being wasted. So the amount of food that's right in their backyard could feed all the people that are going hungry. And it's just. Some friends in the food waste space call it the world's dumbest problem, but it's really just distribution. It's, how do we get this edible product, which now, from Santa Clara University, they found over a 3-year study with 20 commodities that 34% of edible produce is not even harvested and taken off the farm. So a third of what we grow is left behind. And that's really where Full Harvest specializes, is how do we capture more of that, which we estimate to be at least a $20 billion market that growers are missing out on. And we really want to help bring that money to them because the market is now growing and should be more efficient, where everything that's imperfect or surplus goes to people that don't need to care what produce looks like. So that as we get more strapped with land and water and resources, then the people that need the perfect looking produce or the number one grade can buy that.
Talk a little bit, and you mentioned, part of your mission is that, to enhance the revenue base for farmers, and yet also solve this problem. So once you went through the field, you came back, and how long before you came up with Full Harvest, and then moving forward? What were the challenges you encountered to get the business off the ground?
So there's the short story where I just say, all of a sudden I came up with this idea for Full Harvest. But the real truth is that I went 8 months kind of in the wrong direction, where at first I was like, I want to create more affordable, healthy products with this, off-grade produce or outside stalks or leaves or whatever it is. But I spent 8 months trying to find a supplier that could aggregate in a consistent way and capture that product. And there's too many details to go into, but I could not find somebody. And the only person I could find was a man about to retire that did it for food banks, that then did another endeavor. But I was like, wait a minute. If I can't even do what I would like to do with making, Organic Avenue type juices, at half the cost with this imperfect produce, then somebody needs to become the supplier. And that's how you make a big impact, and that's how you, affect way more change faster. And so I realized that I needed to become the supplier, but online and with technology, because without technology, you can't scale. And and so what I found during that research when I finally came up with Full Harvest 8 months later was, the perfect metaphor is kind of about, is looking at Airbnb. Imagine if Airbnb tried to scale over the phone. Sounds laughable, right? There's no way that could happen. And that's kind of the way that the ag industry is right now. They're offline. If they have excess, they'd have to move it over the phone, and they don't have usually the time or resources to spend hours within 24, 48 hours trying to move product at a significant discount. And so just how Airbnb came in and created a excess inventory marketplace, if you will, to unlock billions of dollars of incremental revenue for people, connecting buyers and sellers, that's really the opportunity I saw for ag. So making it super easy that within a minute, growers could get access to a large number of buyers that we helped facilitate and bring onto the platform for them to make it low risk, high value, high reward, super easy, traceable, and incremental revenue for them. And at the same time, helping buyers who want to be more sustainable or, get access to this product, make it easy for them through our platform.
Well, talk a little bit about the Full Harvest today, because I see you in Salinas pretty routinely, your group, and then I've visited you in San Francisco, and it looks like you have a full house of folks already working for it. So what are the skills you're looking for to build this business?
Yeah, so I really we have a pretty evenly divided team. We're about 20 people now, but we're growing. We'll definitely grow a lot more next year after we raise the next round of funding. But we're pretty evenly distributed between supply, operations, sales, and technology. And so, you know, I think what we're really looking for are really passionate people about the mission, you know, solving food waste and bringing technology to where there is none. Only 4% of produce approximately is purchased online right now, which is crazy in almost 2020. You know, with supply, we're looking for people that are really passionate about the mission, that know the ag space, that know produce, that you know, could help us with sales, essentially with growers and or innovation, because we view ourselves not only as a tech company with our marketplace for businesses, but also as an innovation company where we're one of the only companies out there working hand in hand with growers to actually look at those remaining leaves and say, okay, how can we capture those? Because there's sales for that. We know buyers want that. And so, you know, we have sort of an grower innovation team that we're starting as well. We have one person on it, and we're building that out. And then logistics and operations, so anything around food safety, logistics, that kind of thing. I think that would probably be most relevant for this group. And then sales on the buy side is into consumer packaged good companies, food service, processors, things like that.
What's in? Are you able to describe? Because I know there's a competitive aspect to your business as well. But are you able to kind of describe the types of companies that are interested in purchasing product online, and then how do you anticipate that growing? If it's 4% now, do you expect that to go to 10%?
I mean, we want to be the people absolutely to drive that for sure. I think it's going to happen, and it has to happen. Why shouldn't it be us helping with that? In terms of what I can share, I mean, essentially, you know, we don't touch retailers right now. We view that essentially as business to consumer, because the consumer at the end of the day still, you know, shops with their eyes there. We're focused on business to business, which we view business as anybody that does not need to care what produce looks like because they process it in some way. So they chop it, juice it, cut it, cook it, blend it, whatever that is. So that's a wide range of categories. Right now we work with about 7 or 8 industries. We plan to expand about 15, but you know, really they've found that that's at least about a $47 billion worth of demand opportunity that is happening on the plant-based food side, and that's growing. So huge opportunity to really connect the huge amount of edible supply that's being wasted to that growth.
And you know, as an entrepreneur, and you just alluded to you know, picking up a round of financing. You wear a lot of hats. So you had a mission. You've been out in the fields, but I'm going to guess you have to wander into some boardrooms from time to time and get some and get some folks to help you realize your vision. Talk a little bit about that process for those prospective entrepreneurs out there.
Look, I knew nothing about fundraising. Nothing. I didn't even know how to, you know, ask my friends and family for money just, you know, 3-4 years ago. And now we've raised $11.5 million. And, you know, it's just trial by fire, learning by doing. And I think at the end of the day, you know, it's really important to find the right investors that really are aligned with your mission. There's a lot of people that just want to get into a space because it's hot or it's interesting, but they might not provide value, or they might misunderstand and push you in the wrong direction. So I've been really thoughtful about that. But, you know, for me, I've been told that, you know, I'm one of the most passionate entrepreneurs they've come about because of how much I've had real life, you know, access to the problem and seen it firsthand. And I think that's, you know, actually not that common, unfortunately, in Silicon Valley, of people having had that experience and solving a true problem that they, you know, dealt with personally. And the passion side of things. So, you know, they always look for that, the story, the founder story, the company's potential growth, and then the team. So those are kind of the things that I really thought about while I was raising.
Okay. You know, one of the things I'm really struck by, and as we proceed with the rest of the day and the various panels, you know, Full Harvest uniquely touches what's going to be talked about for the rest of the day in terms of product development, the supply chain, and then one that I'm particularly intrigued of, because one of the things we're very focused on right now in the Innovation Center is automation. And you know, that challenge of just getting product out of the ground or off a tree or clipped from a vine,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah.
Do you find that is going, so if you're talking about imperfect produce and, you know, sometimes
Yeah.
we as growers are chock full of cliches. We know lots of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of them is, you know, your first loss is your best loss. So
Yeah.
do you find, you know, so if there's not a perceived market, do you find there's some challenges to actually just go in and get the product? Because a lot of times it's just that simple why things are walked by.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot there. I think that, so, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, the data speaks for itself. And I think that that's been one of the issues is we haven't had real data on the issue. And only recently was there that, you know, full study from Santa Clara that now shows that 34% of edible produce is being left behind. So sure, early days, you know, it totally makes sense either because they didn't know me, or, you know, they might not see the opportunity and think that what they're harvesting is everything that could be harvested. But, you know, yeah, early days I had people say, oh, we harvest everything, or we're sustainable. But I think some of the best moments of my journey have been a couple farm visits where I helped show them the opportunity that was being left behind, and telling them that I had buyers for that, and them just being shocked and being like, what do you mean? But it's not perfect. Oh, but it's twisted, or but it's this. I'm like, that's okay. Like, I have buyers for that. And they're like, wow, really? You know, and I think that, you know, for better or for worse, the retailers have just, you know, really, you know, made people very, very focused on perfection. And so it's just been a mentality. And so I think that's what's exciting, is to kind of help people see things through a new lens and as opportunity. And then try to be the ones that come in and help them find that. But I think now, you know, people know about us, and they, you know, you're always going to have the early, you know, the early adopter curve, right? It's like early adopters, then middle adopters, and late adopters, right? So we definitely started with early adopters that were more focused on sustainability and visionaries and, you know, open to innovation. Now we're kind of in the middle of the curve, and, you know, we'll get to the late adopters.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, listen, as we finish up, and I know you get a chance to visit with a lot of college students all over the country. What do you typically find might be most on their mind, and any words of advice as they think about their careers as they get started?
Yeah. Well, I have a lot to say on that, but I would say high level, just there are a lot of very urgent, pressing problems in this world around climate change, food, water. And if you haven't read it or heard about it, you can look at Project Drawdown. It's 100 of the solutions to reverse climate change. You know, I think that one of the things that I've noticed being in this industry is that there's just not enough innovation and entrepreneurship happening fast enough. There's a lot of amazing work that's really blown up over the last few years, but I just think, you know, these are really pressing, urgent issues. I think in 10 years from now, we're going to be in a totally different world with food and ag than we were, you know, today. And so there's a huge amount of opportunity. If you're interested in it, just go for it. You know, my favorite saying is like, you know, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? You know, and go big or go home. It's like, you know, these things are real. You've got it, and that's what keeps me going. Is just like, this has to work. This has to happen, because we've got to have enough food. So yeah, just go for it. It'll work out.
Good. Just go for it, and it'll work out. I think those are pretty good words to end our conversation. Do we have? Are we good, or do we take questions? Not this panel. We're just chatting. Okay. Well, I think it's fair to say we had a terrific conversation, and please join me in thanking one for Christine for joining us this morning, and then thank her because she worked really, really hard at a ticket counter to explain. You don't understand. I have to be at Cal State Monterey Bay tomorrow morning. So, Christine, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.